It is not unusual in Russia to see villages scattered across the countryside that are made up of old wooden houses and producing scenes that are often quite pastoral. It is not unusual in Russia to see large old churches and cathedrals topped with domes, often gold-plated. It is not unusual in Russia to see people sitting together outside their houses engaged in conversation. It is not unusual in Russia to see locally produced dishware decorated in a very specific style. It is not unusual in Russia to see houses built in a very specific style, often decorated with very ornate trim. It is not unusual in Russia to see contrasts between old and new, traditional and modern, plain and stylish. And then going a bit deeper into reading each picture, reading between the lines of the picture, we can ask what statement about the culture of this particular place is the picture making. Using the sample photos in the cross-cultural set, here's aspects of Russian culture that I was trying to capture. The village is an important part of the physical and cultural landscape of Russia. Religion, especially the Russian Orthodox religion, is an important part of the physical and cultural landscape of Russia. This is suggested by the fact that there are so many churches and cathedrals in Russia, that so many of them survived the Soviet period, that restoring them during a time of economic crisis in the immediate post-Soviet period was such a priority, and that the domes are once again being covered with gold plating. Relationships are an important part of Russian culture, as evidenced by the fact that Russians often choose to spend leisure time together in conversation. Traditional art forms continue to be an important part of Russian culture, as evidenced by the fact that gel dishes can be found in so many stores, kiosks, and on so many Russian tables. And the Russian landscape is rich in contrast. I took this particular photo because it seemed to capture so many of those contrasts, including that between the modern urban style of architecture, plain, concrete, and massive, and the traditional style of architecture, which is ornate, wooden, and more compact. The often gray, drab background and bright splashes of style and beauty that you see in the foreground here, and also contrasting signs of economic decline, such as seen by the physical state of the street and the house in the foreground, with the signs of rebirth as represented by the newer building in the background, the crane in the far background, and the stylishly dressed young woman in the foreground.